Hello everybody, welcome to a new video on the CarlosX360 channel. Today we're going to do a video review of the PlayStation 5 hardware. This is the video that we all been waiting for. This is going to be now a 3-4 video series build up. Okay, so I've already done a review of Final Fantasy 16, Final Fantasy 7 Remake, Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, and I've already done a hands-on with the Call of Duty Black Ops 6 beta, which is not recorded. I'm going to save that for a review for the actual game. Right now, we're going to do the hardware review. So let's get into it. It's on the website, see? So, Sony has sold over 500 million consoles over the last 2 decades. Sony is celebrating PlayStation's 30th anniversary this year in December. PlayStation 5 is obviously Sony's 5th game console. Sony only released 2 handhelds, a cloud handheld PlayStation Portal, and 2 virtual reality devices with the PlayStation branding on it. Today we're talking about the PlayStation 5 hardware. This is a PlayStation 5 hardware review. PlayStation 5 has been on the market for about 4 years now. PlayStation 5 was released on November 12, 2020 and sold over 60 million units. I purchased PlayStation 5 in November 2023 when the PlayStation 5 Slim was released. It was new and every store was sold out of a PlayStation 5 console. The first PlayStation 5 title I got with the system was the obligatory Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. The obligatory Call of Duty game. Over 500 million units of Call of Duty had been sold already. So by the time that you see this video, 1 in 5 player has already owned a Call of Duty game. So it should be like easy conversation, easy opener in video games. So that's what I'm saying. The obligatory Call of Duty game. Okay. The pack-in game for PlayStation 5 is Spider-Man 2. The original plan was to get Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 as the pack-in game, but since Spider-Man 2 pack-in was available, that's what we got. Since the purchase, I bought 6 games. I set up a series of reviews building up to this review, like I said before. I started with Final Fantasy 16, Final Fantasy Remake, Final Fantasy Rebirth. I've spoken about parts of the PlayStation 5 hardware in these reviews and will be relevant here. So, The video reviews that I spoke about over here is already on the channel. So if you want to see what I said there, go there. Let's get on with it. Okay, so let me... The original PlayStation 5 console was a launch console and was designed to shock. Since PlayStation 2, their consoles was always black. However, Sony saw how creative people were with Xbox 360 and PlayStation 4. Now, PlayStation 4 wasn't a particularly a customizable console, but outside businesses saw how creative players were with Xbox 360, either with official faceplate and or mods, starting around the 6 months into the release of PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. Businesses that are not affiliated with Sony or Microsoft devised business models where they paint their consoles to match the faceplates. And other businesses would create mods that for the consoles with the idea of do it yourself, DIY, that kind of niche market, okay? It was a creative period. So Sony played into the mindset of and parlayed all the design with these concepts. Sony doubled down with these consoles while designing PlayStation 5 Slim and the recently announced PlayStation 5 Pro. The biggest innovation of PlayStation 5 Slim and Pro is the detachable drives. You can detach the drive, see? You can detach it. So, hold on one here. Nobody understood the concepts, but players wanted the DIY philosophy. Think about it. You can buy a PlayStation 5 digital edition and buy the detachable drive later if you want to. You can even swap the covers with different colors. It looks sleek, but it's not easy to lay the console on the entertainment center like the previous PlayStation consoles. Xbox Series X sort of fixes this in the design. You can stand it or you can lay the console. Now, that's not to say you can't lay the PlayStation 5 console, as it comes with two stand feet. Yes, that's literally what it's called. Hold on here. Let me show you. See? Those little stands, I don't know if you can see that. So, you can put those little stands, and it's gonna allow that console to lay flat. And it's kind of sturdy too. I'm surprised it's even that sturdy. But what I'm saying is most consoles are like flat. Like the PlayStation 2, it was flat on the bottom. So you can just set it up in the entertainment center and do movies, video games in there, and like. But this kind of design right here. See, that kind of design is like curve in one area it's flat on one area too. So it's gonna wobble if you don't use the stands. Okay? So you can read the specs if you want to. I'm gonna put it down in the description if you want to read it. But for the most part, the CPU is 3.5 gigahertz, 8 cores, AMD Zen 2, 10.3 teraflops, RDNA 2 GPU. Okay? 16 gigabytes GDDR6. Custom SSD is 1 terabyte. Right now in the Slim. When the console came out, it was like close to 1 terabyte, but it was only like 820 something, 825 I think. And the real number is at least 7 something. So the OS is taking up space in the console. So people were complaining about the storage size. So Sony said, okay, we'll put the 1 terabyte in there. Okay? So expansion is NVMe M.2 SSD slot. So you can put in like a I'll talk about it later. But you can put like a new SSD in there. Okay? So there's a 4K Blu-ray player. That's for games only though. For the most part. Alright. So let's go back up. To demonstrate how the system on the chip hold on, let me system on a chip. Yeah. I'll read it in a minute. But what I'm saying is half of this is the CPU. The other half is the GPU. That's a system on a chip. It's on the Nintendo Switch too, but it's weaker. Here, PlayStation 5 is pretty powerful. Okay? I just told you how much power it has right now. So, the PlayStation 5 is a pretty powerful system. Both the GPU and the CPU are designed by AMD. Keep this in mind for later, okay? A lot of people will not understand the technical specification of the PlayStation 5 unless they are either a PC gamer or a console gamer. Casual consumers and casual players will not understand it all. And will have to discern it via how visually impressive the game is with the power it boasts. PS5's CPU runs at 3.5 gigahertz and at 8 cores. Codename Matisse. Zen 2 is about as powerful as Intel's 8th gen chips. Zen 2 is a micro architecture that integrates with the with AMD's GPU for the PlayStation 5. In turn, AMD's RDNA 2 communicates with Zen 2. Both are known as a system on a chip processors. RDNA 2 supports up to 10.3 teraflops. Furthermore, RDNA 2 supports hardware accelerated ray tracing, providing for realistic shadows and reflections. Think Toy Story, think Star Wars, think Terminator, think Jurassic Park. All your favorite movies with those crazy reflections, those are ray trace, though they don't call it that at that point of time. So PlayStation 4 can do Toy Stories no problem, but it would have to be done by hand, and it kind of did happen with the release of Kingdom Hearts 3, which panned at launch. Okay? They actually put a Toy Story level into Kingdom Hearts 3. The problem is there are some hindrances in some places. The beginning of Kingdom Hearts 3 actually put you into a room that would have been a ray trace castle. Sora was miniatured into a toy, but you actually roamed a room where light would reflect on a floor reflect on a floor that seems laminated. Okay? But all this was done by hand, and the optimization was not ideal. The reflections were static. The shadows landed where it's supposed to be, but as a result, the compute calculations hindered the performance of the animations. The industry calls this the frame rate. I use Star Wars as another example because a lot of people don't realize most of the graphics in Star Wars were all computer generated. Most of it is a derivative of ray tracing. I think they call it something else. Anyway, my point is, those reflections are shiny on... My point is, those reflections on shiny helmets and armor, ray tracing. Okay? All of it. All of it. You can even go all the way back to Terminator 2 when T-1000, he changed into this chrome fixture. And this chrome fixture would get reflections from the walls. Okay? When T-1000 would morph into a tinfoil chrome, computer generated. So, most PC games are now using ray tracing. So, I'm going to show you a little bit of what happened here. What happens.
So
this is NVIDIA. This is on your Nintendo Switch, but not as powerful as this. This is your PC. Okay? So, I'm not talking about this right here. This has been done for a while. But look at the background.
If you look at the terrain here, the way that the sun and the light interact with the surface and the materials, you get a physically based look from it, the way the light interacts with it, behaves how it would in the real world. And same thing when you look over the water here, you can see the way it reflects, and everything is physically based, which just makes it feel...
All that water is ray tracing.
But science doesn't get you the whole way when creating a beautiful game, so many of our artists are also taking lots of reference from the real world when creating our assets, particularly...
Look at those shadows.
White House of
it's all here, like hitting
at almost a 1-to-1 ratio.
Look at that window we're walking by. It looks amazing.
Yes, exactly.
See
that to the right here,
it looks like glass. You can almost reach out and touch it.
Yeah, this shows a great example of the combination of ray tracing and our physical based rendering, and the work that we've been doing with NVIDIA. It really comes together here.
So that's ray tracing. Okay. So all. The reason why I'm stopping right here is because, as you can see, the shadows is hitting the walls. In the past, it used to be like flat. Let me skip a little bit so they can show you the differences. Hold on here. Ah, right here, right here, right here, right here, right here. Perfect. Hold on, here. What?
Built for you, so we can slow down the time scale of the VFX, and if we turn RTX back on again, and then we can start shooting the tank's cannon on the side.
So as you can see, the reflections are not there anymore.
Explosion and the debris and the frostbite's destruction.
It's on now, but it's gonna turn off in a bit.
Which with RTX on,
this is on.
You lose all that.
This is off.
It's just not nearly as
There's none.
as with ray tracing on.
And as you can see, shadow is gone too.
We can move to the car, and even complex surfaces like this is not a problem for ray tracing. So when we shoot our tank flame over again, you can see it on the fender of the car, on the hood, everywhere. It's being reflected how you would expect. And a little fun thing is, if we move to the back of this car here, we move around it, then we can in fact see our own soldier reflected in there. Yeah, and that of course is together with the flame.
But if you turn it off, watch, they're gonna turn it off to show you the differences.
In the tram and everywhere, the whole environment, everything is being ray traced.
That's incredible. Yes. Jonas, thank you. Congratulations.
Great. All right, I think we have this really cool weapon in the game. It's called a V1 rocket, and it's got a pretty big flame. I think it would be interesting to see how that looks when ray traced. So, Pablo, we can call that in and drop it at the end down there. Let's see how that looks. Right there. And that explosion's being ray traced again in the whole environment.
Yeah, that's
ray
tracing.
Windows, you see it everywhere. That's really fantastic.
Oh, come on, off. Okay, so they're not. This. I had another video that shows it better, but in general, when you turn it off, the graphics feels a little weird. Okay, so hold on, let me see. Okay, so to showcase this, oh come on, dude, thank you. To showcase this, Sony used Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart as the launch showpiece of the PlayStation 5. It brought that Toy Story graphical feel. But Sony didn't just focus on the graphics. Sony focused a lot on the ability to manifest worlds on a whim. This is more on the storage of the PlayStation 5, but it's supported by the CPU and the GPU. Why is it? Can I just go down now? Dude, come on. Alright, fine. I'll just use the mouse. Anyway. Positive. PlayStation... hold on. Sony sells the PlayStation 5 console as 4K ready consoles, and it does the job. If you don't believe me, look at the broadcasting outputs. If you want to broadcast your gameplay to YouTube or Twitch, you have the option of selecting this. Every video I ever put on my YouTube channel from my PlayStation 5 console has these broadcast specifications. Okay? 3,840 times 2,160. Okay? So, in other words, that's close enough to 4K. Close enough. Okay? Hold on here. However, to upload these videos, it's going to cost up to 20 gigabytes to upload the videos. So if you don't have good internet to upload those videos, you're going to have problems. That's how crisp the graphics can be output. And the raw videos look better than the ones on YouTube, Rumble, or Twitch. YouTube supports up to 4K and 60 FPS. That means 60 frames per second. Okay? Rumble supports up to 4K too. Twitch is very much behind in this aspect. Okay? The bitrate for videos are dragged and bogged down by Twitch itself, despite being owned by Amazon, the behemoth shopping website. Yeah. We're talking about a $1 billion company that can't afford that kind of bitrate. Why do you buy Twitch then? Makes no sense. Okay? They don't know how to subsidize their back end. They don't know how to do it. Okay? To get the full experience from the console, you need to have a TV that supports HDMI 2.1. A lot of people think that 4K isn't all that, and that 8K isn't going to help. No, guys, it will. In fact, if you saw the graphical differences before a 4K TV, which I kind of have, and a quantum TV, your jaw. Okay? I saw these quantum TVs while I was traveling to Puerto Rico. They are sharp. You won't even notice if it's real or not. Sony makes TVs. That's their business. That's their business model. Okay? Sony is a hardware company above all else. They are banking on 4K and 8K. Right now, PlayStation 5 is a 4K console. Okay? That's what it is. Negatives. The graphics are cool and all, but that doesn't mean there aren't drawbacks to the console. Each game has 2 display modes. Two display modes. Okay? Performance mode and fidelity mode. Performance mode gives you 60 frames per second, but sacrifices graphics. Finally, sorry, I misread that. Sorry. Okay, so fidelity gives you graphics, but sacrifices 60 frames per second. Sony has already announced PlayStation 5 Pro, which brings a bigger CPU than the base mainline PlayStation 5. Okay? I'll talk about this on the next video, okay? I'll talk about this on the next video. Now, just remember, that CPU is technically a system on a chip. Sony says they will merge the ideals of performance with fidelity modes. It has been said that there will be a third setting to solve for this. By the time that you've watched this video, there has been impressions, unboxing, technical analysis of the console. So most of what I'm saying here is just a tad bit outdated. Okay? I will talk about this on the next video. Okay? Oh, come on, dude. Alright, so I've already spoken about this before. Okay? But as you can see the wish list, right? You can see unfollow. Final Fantasy VII Remake upgrade for PlayStation 4 version owners. Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate Deluxe Edition. Digital Deluxe Edition. Whatever, bro. Final Fantasy VII Remake. That's the standalone. That's the one that people bought when it originally was released in 2020 or something like that. Okay. Final Fantasy VII Remake Digital Deluxe Edition. So there's two versions. One is Integrate, and the other one is the original game. So there's a lot of choices here. Okay? This does not even cover the cross-generation, cross-gen discs that percolates down in retailers. So most games has a cross-gen bundle. I'll explain this a little later, okay? I'll explain this. Okay? So, a lot of people are sleeping on PlayStation 5 backwards compatibility implementation. I've spoken about this via the Final Fantasy VII Remake review, which I've already talked about on this channel. So, go there. Backwards compatibility on PlayStation 5 is about choice. I think that the PlayStation 5 backwards compatibility implementation is somewhat similar to Microsoft's implementation of backwards compatibility. Xbox One's backwards compatibility program is a case-by-case basis of allowing compatibility of Xbox 360 games on Xbox One. PlayStation 5 takes this idea and allows game to be emulated via legacy modes. So you pop in your old PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 4 Pro game into your PlayStation 5 console. The console recognizes it as an authorized device. This is because Sony is working with AMD again this time around. Not only that, PlayStation 5 architecture is based around the x86-64 coding process. It is how most PC games are being made, making PlayStation 5 easy to develop for. Mark Cerny talked about it at CES 2020. Okay? I'll talk about this next time, okay? Because it's a longer video. It explains what the original PlayStation 5 console can do and what it's going forward for PlayStation 5 Pro. Okay? So that's that. I'll talk about this later. That said, I think Sony's implementation of backwards compatibility is the innovation of PlayStation 5. A lot of people don't understand this and are sleeping on it. So you can put your PlayStation 4 game into the PlayStation 5 console and it will play as is, or you can work a little bit more to get more. Sony's PlayStation 5 store has multiple choices of what to buy and or download. Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate is the official PlayStation 5 version, but is not in circulation at retailers. At least that's what I understand from the retailer online website so far. I don't see it listed anywhere anymore, so it's like gone. Okay, so the only way to buy it is on the PlayStation 5 store. The very best way to play your PlayStation 4 version on PlayStation 5 is through the upgrade path on PlayStation 5. You download the upgrade path, which is free, by the way, but you need the play disc. Once you've done downloading, you load up the game via the play disc already in the PlayStation 5 disc drive. The upgrade patch will play the PlayStation 4 version as if it is a brand new game. I played the PlayStation 4 version on the PlayStation 4 console. It plays well, but I remiss if I don't mention it. There are some frame rate issues. Okay? Sony invested a lot of research and development on the controller. We've had rumble controllers since the original PlayStation, but the first controller with haptic feedback is the Nintendo Switch. It's known as a HD rumble, and PlayStation 5 has it. Sony also included a motion sensor into the controller. Sony included adaptive triggers for realistic mechanics in gameplay. Let's say you have a bow. You press and hold the triggers. You hold the adaptive triggers. It corresponds to haptic feedback. It corresponds via haptic feedback. And on screen, it all works in tandem. So it feels like you're actually holding the object. Okay? It all works together to create a nice controller. But PlayStation 5 controllers do drain a lot of energy. It drains depending on what action is being done on the controller. You can get 5 to 10 hours of gameplay depending on the action on screen. the early controllers were so poor, Sony revised the controllers with better adaptive triggers and better battery life with the arrival of PlayStation 5 Slim. So, when you're at the store and you want a second controller, look at the model number of the controller. So, because the ones that come with the Slim, those are the new ones. And I don't know if they're like recycling the old ones with the new ones in the retailers. I don't know if that's happening, like replacing the old ones with the new ones, or they're selling the old ones for the new ones. I'm not sure about that. But if I were you guys, I would look for the model number of your second controller to see if that controller has the battery life and the adaptive triggers improvement, because those are the two big improvements in the new ones. Now, that's not to say that it will fix all the problems, if that makes sense. That's just not a side note from me. Let's get on with it. PlayStation 5 has a lot of games. And don't you let anyone tell you otherwise. Right now, there aren't many hard-hitting games for PlayStation 5, granted. Starting next year, we may see these hard hitters start to be released. In fact, Grand Theft Auto 6 is set to be released in 2025. That said, since I bought PlayStation 5, I bought 6 physical PlayStation 5 games and 3 digital PlayStation 5 games. 3 of my favorite games are on PlayStation 5, with it released in the same year. Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is a 2020 game. Don't worry about that. That's not the point of what I'm trying to say. But that's one of those 3. Okay? So, Final Fantasy 16 2023, which is right about there. So, and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth 2024. I'll give you a few more. Resident Evil 2 Remake, Resident Evil 4 Remake, and Stellar Blade. Resident Evil 4 remakes play better on PlayStation 5 than it did on PlayStation 4. It looks so crisp and runs as a silky smooth 60 frames per second. Final Fantasy 7, I'm gonna re-say that again. Final Fantasy 16 is a hidden gem that people are sleeping on. Final Fantasy VII Remake and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth are masterpieces. I feel like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth perfected the action genre for Square Enix. Bring on the 3rd disc. And even then, you still have access to be able to play PlayStation 4 games on PlayStation 5. We are 4 years into the lifespan of PlayStation 5, and people aren't upgrading to the next console The only reason why we're still in this cross-generation period is because game developers continue to make games for the 114 million players that are still on PlayStation 4. The reason why most PlayStation 5 games aren't using the real power of the PlayStation 5 is for the games to be feature parity with previous generation. I've spoken about this before. Go look at it. One of the videos is texture streaming. It's a huge problem, and it's going to continue to be a big problem. You're going to still see issues that pop up on the PlayStation 4 in the next few years. And it's not because of anything else other than most of the stuff that are in PlayStation 5 cannot be done on PlayStation 4. Like the loading of assets in the background. Snap, 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 snap. No. We're dealing with hard drives that are archaic. It's old school disk drive style read write kind of talk back and forth, and they're pretty slow. Okay? For example, this year's Call of Duty release, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, is scheduled to be released on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series S and X, and Xbox Game Pass. Obviously, PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series consoles are the lead platforms for Call of Duty Black Ops 6. The PC version even requires SSD as a prerequisite to play the game. This is because of the texture streaming technology that Activision coded specifically for Black Ops 6. I went hands-on with the Black Ops 6 beta, the game recently. Texture streaming is going to be becoming a bigger problem in the next few years, like I said. Okay? Come on, hold on. Okay, okay. As I mentioned before, you have choices with regards to PlayStation 5 games. And as I said, we're still in the cross-generation period. You can choose to buy a PlayStation 4 game and play it that way. You can choose to buy the PlayStation 5 version and play it that way. You can choose to buy the cross-gen version, which comes with the PS4 disc and the digital download of the PlayStation 5 version. With cross-gen, you're not actually buying one game. You're buying two. This is where the best part comes. If you buy the PlayStation 4 version and that game has a upgrade path available, that PS4 disc that you have, that becomes the PlayStation 5 version. What normally runs at 30 frames per second now runs at 60 frames per second with all the upgrades. A lot of people are sleeping on this feature. A lot of people are not getting it. Sony is setting the standard for backwards compatibility right now. I saw this with Final Fantasy VII Remake, and we're going to see it more very soon. Sony announced Horizon Zero Dawn was remastered. and will be released on October 31st, 2024. Those who have the PlayStation 4 version can buy the upgrade patch for $10. There is a standalone PlayStation 5 version, so again, this goes back to their word choice. Okay? PlayStation 5 focus games like Helldivers 2, Stellar Blade, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth showcase the console to showcase the performance of the PlayStation 5, but however, this is dependent on what the developers are able to do with the console. Helldivers 2 looks fantastic, plays fantastic. Stellar Blade has that it factor because you will battle bosses that are twice the size of players. Usually this is reserved for God of War games where players are tasked with battling Greek and or Norse mythology's fiercest bosses. I played the PlayStation 4 version of God of War Ragnarok, and I can only imagine how the PlayStation 5 version plays. Since the performance is dependent around what the developers can do with the console, let's talk about heat and noise. The original PlayStation 5 console that was on the market before the PlayStation 5 Slim had a lot of problems with regards to heat and noise. So much so, many players returned their PlayStation 5 or got the PlayStation 5 repaired by Sony. Most of the time, it was around heat and noise. I'm happy to report that PlayStation 5 Slim is now cooler and less noisy. I've never had to return the PlayStation 5 Slim or repair it. That's not to say that it doesn't get warm or get noisy when you install the game onto the PlayStation 5 Slim. The console does whir. It does get a bit of a noise. It gets warm when you get the game. Hold on. It gets warm when you play the game for a while or is doing more tasks. The user interface was similar to the PlayStation 4. So unlike the PlayStation 4, the focus of the design focuses on the games lined up. It goes by when you installed the game and by when you last played it. Updated games get listed first too. I'm not saying it's bad or anything, I'm just saying each game has a page focused to them. Some game pages have downloads for the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5 version. Some pages have downloads for the upgrade path as mentioned earlier. Each game also shows your progress in the game and or shows the time played in the game. Let me go back and show you what's going on. So you have the play game button right here. You have the 3 dots which brings up like options. And then you have 90% which is the completion part of the game. So how far you are in the game. And then 120 hours. That means 120 hours played. So that's what this UI does. So there's the list of games right there. There's the user interface up here, and there's more options here. Down here is your trophy and what your friends play, that kind of thing. It's a little better than the PlayStation 4 version, so yeah. Alright, so the best part of the user interface, and I alluded to it earlier, is the ability to stream or record gameplay to YouTube and Twitch. I really wish Rumble would work something out with Sony on this. Previously, Sony allowed for Twitter screen caps to be shared. I also wish Sony and X would work something out to allow video clips and or recordings or live streams from PlayStation 5, because the raw recordings from PlayStation 5 is just as good as a developer uploading it. That's what impresses me the most about the user interface, and I really, really wish Twitch would be better about the integration of PlayStation 5 streaming via Twitch. The problem is that Amazon's in-house streaming solution is better than what is on Twitch's own platform. I said earlier that bitrate and resolution is a big problem. It would expose more kids who are primarily on Twitch to new games from Sony/PlayStation themselves. The worst part about the user interface is that developers that worked on PlayStation 5 are not consciously aware that there are YouTubers or Twitch streamers that use the PlayStation 5 to stream aforementioned platforms. The features are there, yes, but when you use the headset as a mic or similar equipment, it is kind of cumbersome to really do a recording section with commentary. I'm not saying it's cumbersome. I'm saying in order to do a commentary, this is the route that you need to do. Plug in your headphone, turn headset on for input, turn the mic in the broadcast setting. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me twisted. I like the options available, but I feel like there should be a preset for streams/commentary folks to select a mode like commentary so they don't forget to go into these options and turn everything on. Otherwise, commentary uploads will have double voiceovers, double sounds. Here's a recent example. I'll show you guys what happened. Okay, so hold on. It's spooky season, so let's get to Dead Space. I'm gonna wait a minute to let the video go for a little bit, because beyond 1 minute, the algorithm is gonna pick up the F word somewhere. See? So the game isn't speaking, but the headset is picking up over here too. So you're listening to two voices at the same time. And that's my bad. That's my bad. That's my fault. I should have checked some stuff. But what I'm saying is, there should be like a preset somewhere down here, or like something. It tells you you can turn it on, and then you're off to doing your commentaries. Hold on 1 second here. So let's get on with it, all right? In this case, I forgot to change the input from TV to headset. That's my fault, and as a result, the TV took over the whole recording. I like the options. I guess what I'm hoping for is a preset for commentaries. Non-commentaries is easy peasy. Just leave everything alone, then record. I'm just saying commentaries need a preset somewhere on the PlayStation 5 console. There's something I want to say about the user interface. And there's something I want to say about the user interface. If you go to the menu to edit your profile, why isn't there a password wall in front of that? Why is it easier to edit profile information from the straight from the PlayStation 5 user interface? With PlayStation 4, you needed the account and password to edit your profile information. I'm aware of the 4-digit PIN that is put up as soon as you power up the console. And the password wall when you purchase a game. I'm aware about those. Okay? I feel like the user profile section of the user interface is vulnerable. Sony really needs to fix that. There really needs to be like a wall between you and the user interface. Not, so if somebody else is on your console and you unlocked it by PIN, that doesn't stop somebody else in your house from changing the information in there, you know? So this also has other ideas down there. I don't want to give ideas, but I'm saying that area needs to be fixed. Sony, fix that. Okay? I don't know why we got from PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5, and we are going backwards in terms of features. I don't understand it. It should be like understood on the next console that we need to have kind of like a wall somewhere. That is one thing that I wanted to get out there. All right, let's move on. Hold on here. We're going to talk about this next. This is the SSD right here. That's a slot for your SSD. So you screw this over here, you open it up, and you put it in there. But there's a little screw right here to hold it down. So this is your SSD slot. Yeah. So, originally, PlayStation 5 shipped with a... Originally, PlayStation 5 shipped with 825 gigabyte SSD, which meant you only had 667.2 gigabyte to work with. So that is very small. Okay? PlayStation 5 Slim now ships with 1 terabyte of data, which you now have 842 gigabytes to work with. The 6 gigabyte of files are unremovable files. They're system files. Okay? And each PS5 console comes with Astro Playroom, which you can remove it. You can remove Astro Playroom from your console. The SSD can read speeds that, oh my god, dude. The SSD read speed is pretty fast. 5.5 gigabyte per second bandwidth. That means actions on PlayStation 5 will be able to talk back and forth between the SSD and the game itself. Most games today load assets in the background to manifest the texture you're about to go to next. This method of loading was prevalent with consoles like PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4. What does games in 2001 revolutionized open world games, both in technological leaps and sales, critical acclaim, all that. Most 3D games were isolated, sprawling worlds, like, let's say, Unreal Tournaments. The maps are usually in a arena map. You can't go outside of that arena. Doom games were in a labyrinth. Open world games were sprawling maps at scale. What Grand Theft Auto was able to do with that open world is to load assets in the background as you roam the sprawling map. As you progress, this technology, as years progress, this technology's evolved in ways that necessitates new coding styles. For example, if you go from a world map to a labyrinth of sorts, the game loads the assets on the other side of that labyrinth. The SSD does all this at once. No compromises, no loading times, nothing. Oh, come on, dude. Okay. Early on, Sony used the original Spider-Man for PS4 to show off how fast loading times are, regardless of how much information is being loaded in Spider-Man. Sony's launch title, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, shows the power of the SSD by loading worlds as you move to new worlds, or move rifts and or objects to your world view in seconds. Another great example is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, where Aerith moved massive buildings to puzzle pieces. You can go ahead and watch that on the channel. It's in there. Huh? You can use the external You can use the external HDD, which is hard disk drive, okay, and or SSD, solid state drives, okay, for miscellaneous downloads or installs. Sony rejects PS5 games from being installed on external external HDD or SSD drives because the specification required to install, retool, and or move to. When I say external HDD SSD drives, I meant drives that attach via USB. I'll explain more in hardware parts. As you can see from the image embedded above, there is a SSD slot on your PlayStation 5 console. If you're not satisfied with the 825 gigabyte SSD drive or 1 terabyte drive, you can extend the storage by installing a off-the-shelf, that's what it's called, off-the-shelf SSD drive. Microsoft's solution is to create a proprietary memory card style chip, which is called expansion card. It's nothing new. It's just an SSD in the design of a memory card. So back in the 90s and 2000, there was these memory cards on your PlayStation 2 or GameCube. Those, that's what this is, okay? But it costs more money. It costs it's MSRP. So there's no like retailer designates. Okay, so retailers can make price drops for off the shelf SSDs as needed, because it's not MSRP style. But the thing is, it depends on the demand of those SSD drives. Okay? Alright, so the biggest innovation with the hardware ports is the NVMe M.2 SSD slot. On the front of the console, you have a high-speed USB Type A port and a USB Type C super speed port. Okay? On the back of the console, you have two super speed USB A ports, two of them, an Ethernet jack, an HDMI 2.1 port, and an AC adapter. The NVMe M.2 SSD slot requires a PCIe 4 implementation to actually work. Okay? The original PlayStation 5 console launched at $399 for the digital edition and $499 for the disc console. Okay? Today, PlayStation 5 Slim costs $499 for the digital edition, and no, wait. I misread that. I'm sorry. The PlayStation 5 Slim costs $449 for the digital edition and $499 for the disc console. Sorry about that, guys. I'm sorry. The MSRP prices currently at retailers. Now, if you want the PlayStation 5 Pro, which is being released November 7, 2024, you'll need $699 to buy it. We'll talk about it in the next time. Okay? Oh, come on. Get down. Carlos's verdict. PlayStation 5. No. PlayStation has been a juggernaut for 3 decades. Sony continues with PlayStation 5 as a 4K ready game console. PlayStation 5 has had a pretty rough start of a console launching. It reminds me of PlayStation 3, where it launched with a few games but came swinging later. Currently, PlayStation 5 sold over 60 million copies worldwide, but the release was staggered by an event that is no fault of their own. Despite the event, Sony maneuvered spectacularly by doing what they know best: scheduling game releases around the console. Game releases started out slowly for Sony, but Sony rebounded in a year or two. PlayStation 5 is a console centered around choice, with everything from console covers to controllers to accessories, then down to the actual games themselves. Backwards compatibility is being slapped on, but it is the innovation in its own right. Sony set the standard for backwards compatibility. Sony set the standard for how backwards compatibility is handled going forward, rather than just being a console that allowed for backwards compatibility. It transformed games that are backwards compatible with PlayStation 5 and improves the quality of backwards compatibility games. The PlayStation 5 focus games highlight PlayStation 5's strength as a console, while future-proofing the console for future devices as a high-definition television. Sony is teasing and spoiling PlayStation 5 owners with high-fidelity visuals. That's not to say PlayStation 5 is perfect. It does have drawbacks and makes PC gaming a better viable option. However, people like consoles for the ease of setup. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys later. Like, subscribe, share, talk about CarlosX360. I'll see you guys later. Thank you very much.